Hey folks, I'm Tori. Welcome to Bass Strategy. Today we're going to be talking about poppers, one of my favorite techniques to use on my lakes and ponds. And I'm going to give you my top 3, in that order, my favorite poppers. So first of all, why a popper? A popper imitates really well a bait fish or a frog on the surface of the water. If you've ever seen a sunfish eating bugs at the surface of the water, or maybe you've seen a frog in the water, a popper does a good job imitating that, or just overall something injured on the surface of the water, just flopping around up there. So let's dive into my number 3 favorite popper. That's going to be this guy right here. This is a 1/2 ounce Yellow Magic popper. Now let me actually take a step back and say that I like to throw my poppers on a bait casting setup. However, if you are a spinning rod guy and that's how you're going to be throwing your top waters, Yellow Magic also makes the same popper in a 1/4 ounce version, and that would actually be my number 1 favorite popper to use on a spinning rod setup. The only difference is, other than the size and the weight, the 1/2 ounce comes with a rattle, the 1/4 ounce does not. But there is something about that 1/4 ounce version of this lure that is really good. I really like that on a spinning rod. It does everything. You can block it, you can pop it. So if you're a spinning rod guy, the 1/4 ounce version of this would be my number 1 choice. But for me, on a bait casting setup, this one's my number 3. What I use this for is it gives me that classic bloop bloop popping action. If that's what I'm looking for out of my popper, this is the one I'm going to turn to every time. Downside of this is you're going to need to immediately change out the hardware on these. The stock hardware is really not great, which is unfortunate because this is an expensive popper. It runs about $14 or $15, somewhere in there. So for something that expensive, you would hope that it would give you hardware that's at least good enough to use for a little while. But outside of that, it's a great popper. It gives a great sound and great action. You can walk it. You get a more tight walking action if you choose to use it in that way. But for me, I'm just using it for that classic popping action. For colors, this one right here is in the yellow. I don't know the exact name of this, but it's more like a yellow or a bone, somewhere between bone and yellow. I like that color. I also stock this one in a white and clear. So why a clear popper? Let's take a look at my Yellow Magic clear popper. I like this. I like their clear version of this lure as well. So you can see it's got that clear body, but I've also got a red accent on the head. I have a red treble hook that I've paired up here. And there's also a little bit of red out on the back. So it's not totally clear, but it is mostly a clear popper. So if your water clarity is muddy or murky, not a lot of visibility to it, I'm going to go with a white or chartreuse bone colored popper that I showed you a moment ago. But if you have a little bit more visibility in the water, say you've got 4 or 5 plus feet of visibility, I might go with more of a natural bluegill popper, or I'll go to a clear popper. The reason I go clear is because maybe I really don't want that fish to get a good look at it. If they are short striking a little bit on your natural color, maybe I go to clear, and they're not really getting a good look at it. All they're seeing up there is a profile and something moving around up there. However, I do want them to have something to key into if they decide they need to commit to it. That's why I have a little bit of a red head. I picked one out that has a red head, and I've paired it with that red treble hook. So when they do strike, they're going to come to that point in the popper, and I'm going to most likely get both treble hooks in them. So it's not something I throw a lot, but it's something that I'd like to have in my arsenal, just in case I am in that situation where I want to throw it. There's a little bit of visibility, and I just want to give them that general profile. I don't want them to key too hard into the details of the popper. Okay, number 2. And these next 2, I went back and forth on these for a while in my mind, trying to think about which one I would go with. But I'm going to have to give number 2 to the Megabass Pop Max. This guy, you can do a ton with this popper. So let's just go over the features. First of all, you could get away with using the treble hooks that it comes with stock, so they come with good quality trebles there. You're going to get a great paint job, a realistic looking paint job on there, which is a nice plus, something you're always going to get out of Megabass. And it also has a chamber through the head portion of this popper that allows water and air to go through. So if you're using it as a normal popper, coming straight back at you, you're going to get a bubble trail. So that's a really neat feature. However, what I like this popper for is how easy it is to walk. So if I'm looking to walk my popper, I'm going to turn to this one every time. It also gives you a really interesting hybrid action that I like. So right in between a standard popping action and a walking action, it's got a very interesting in between there, where it kind of gets a really good body roll, so you get to show off the really nice paint job more with that roll as you're giving it that action. And it really imitates well that sunfish or bluegill coming up at the surface, eating bugs and just flopping over the top. It looks so much like that. I've seen it many times, I'm sure you have too, and you've got to give it a try and check it out. The action is incredible, and if you're somebody who's had a hard time walking a popper, it's hard not to walk this popper, almost to a fault. It does have that great air chamber coming through it, so you want to utilize that bubble trail, but it's almost hard not to walk this popper. So this is an expensive popper. They go for about $20 each. Why would you spend that much on a popper? I would say if you were going to spend money on a technique, a topwater or a popper is a great choice, because even if you lose it, it floats. So most of the time you're going to be able to just retrieve it again. So other categories, like say a lipless crankbait or some plastics, if you get caught on a rock and lose it, that's it, it's gone. You're not going to get a popper caught on a rock unless you're fishing rocks that are above the surface of the water, maybe, or you could even get this hung up in a tree or a laydown coming into the water, but you can just go and retrieve it because it floats. If you needed to retie and you didn't, and it comes flying off your line on a cast, good news, it floats. You just go get it. So for that reason, when I buy poppers, more often than not, I have them for a really long time, and I end up tossing them because they're worn and not usable anymore before I actually lose them. So if you're going to spend a lot of money on a technique, poppers are a good place to do that. So my number 1 favorite popper, if I could only have one popper and no other popper, I would have to go with the Live Target popper. Why this? This is the least expensive popper of the 3. They go for, I think, about $12. So why this one? You can walk this one pretty easily. and it has a great walking action. You can pop this one, and it has a great popping action. It's not the best. If I was going to choose, I would maybe go to a Yellow Magic. Or it's not the best to walk, I would definitely go with the Pop Max for that. But it does both really well. It has a little rattle in there. It's got a good paint job. And the stock hooks, you could use them. You can use it out of the box. So because you could do everything with this popper, it's my number one choice. If I don't really know what kind of popper I want to throw, if I want to give it that standard popping action or a walking action, I'm going to tie this one on because I know I can do both. And once I start dialing it in, maybe I switch it to the Yellow Magic or the Pop Max, or maybe I just keep it on because I really like this popper. So this is my number one choice, and this also comes in a 1/4 ounce size for you spinning rod guys. I don't have any on this box. It's in. I do have a couple in my spinning rod box that I do stock, but it does come in that size, and it's a great. You still get the same great action with it. I don't believe the 1/4 ounce comes with a rattle either. Don't quote me on that. It may or may not, but I don't think it does. So anyway, live target popper, my number one recommended popper for you. Alright guys, those are my top 3 popper recommendations for you. I hope you liked the video. If you did, give me that like and consider subscribing to the channel. This channel has content specifically for pond and small lake fishermen. Those are the bodies of water that I fish, and that's the kind of content that I'm going to be delivering to you. So if you're a kayak guy, a little John boat guy with a trolling motor, this is the channel for you. So leave me any questions you have in the comments section, and I'll check it out, or any questions you have or recommendations for future videos, and I'll try to get to those as well. Alright, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.